Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name's Todd Petrie. I am the Chief Operating Officer for Mason City Schools, and I'd like to welcome all of you and all of you at home watching this to the Mason City and Mason City Schools first annual Safety Summit. Before we begin this evening, I did want to take time, and I hope they're here, and I think they're not. I'd like to recognize the individuals that put this evening together. Without them, there was a lot of planning that goes behind this, and I want them to know it's much appreciated. So I'd like to recognize Tracy Carson, Public Relations, and Robin Jordan, Community Engagement. As we move forward tonight, you're going to see really our safety program is an absolute blessing, the way that we work through things and the support from our board and our superintendent and the city. But you will see firsthand the relationship that we have built and developed with the Mason Police Department, the Mason Fire Department, that truly keeps our students and staff safe each and every day. Additionally, you will see that our building administrators, who will be interviewed in a talk show scenario in just a little bit with Mrs. Carson, that they are the key facilitators of safety throughout the school district. And not only within their buildings, but throughout the district. Without them, it would be very difficult to deploy the safety program that we have. So I wanted to recognize them as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Cooper. He is the superintendent of Mason City Schools. And I have to say, I've worked with multiple superintendents, and Dr. Cooper is very involved with safety. Oftentimes, he'll even set up meetings for new technology and things of that nature, so we make sure we're always staying on top of safety. And of course, I would like to introduce the Chief of Police for Mason City, Chief Levi Wells. And without that, Dr. Cooper.
All right. Thank you, Todd. Todd does a great job as our Chief Operating Officer, making sure that we are always looking out for all of our kids, all of our staff, and having a safe community for our kids to come and learn together and for our teachers and our staff to come together to work. So appreciative, Todd, for you organizing this, and for Tracy and Robin for your work in organizing this evening. At school, safety is our number one priority, and we don't just say that as words, but it is actions that we take. And those actions are on a day-to-day basis. So it's some of the practical things that we are doing on a day-to-day basis, whether it's safety checks around making sure our doors are locked and that our outside of our buildings are secure, to looking over the internet practices that we have with our students to make sure we're keeping our students safe from the things going on in the cyber world. And so when we think about safety, it's not just one-dimensional. It's very complex and very comprehensive. We have a great team approach to that. Each of our buildings have a team, so it's a team of teams approach, thinking through proactively. And one of the things that I would say I'm most proud about in serving here at Mason City Schools as the superintendent and CEO is that not only are we talking about the safety that everyone thinks about just on a physical sense, but we're also talking about our kids' mental health. And it's a very prevention-based, proactive approach to our kids and looking at our kids as whole human beings and taking action to make sure that we have the proper things in place. And that could be our peer-to-peer suicide prevention programming. So we have that as our Hope Squad, and you can learn more about that in our large comments this evening if you're able to talk to them or ask us more about them. We also have great mental health resources for our families. And we also have a culture that we've built is see something, say something. And our kids are great about that. Our adults are great, and our community members. And so one thing I'll remind you of before I turn it over to Chief Wells and we move on with our evening is we do have a safety tip line, and we use that safety tip line 24/7. So if you ever have any concerns or questions about safety, or you just want us to check in on someone that you're concerned about or you heard something, please use that safety tip line. We monitor that, like I said, all the time, and we're always interacting with people through that. It could be anonymous, and then we work in a great partnership with our police department. So before I turn it over, I just want to highlight one of the things that we do here at Mason City Schools and Mason and the city in general is we live on our partnerships. Our partnerships give us an advantage. And the partnership that we are highlighting this evening is our partnership with our police department. The Mason Police Department came to us a handful of years ago when I was coming in as superintendent and said, we have an innovative idea. What about creating a police district, just overseeing our schools and building that partnership? And so we have heard about the school resource officer model before, and they said this is an innovative model that goes even beyond that. It's more comprehensive. It allows us to have that partnership and that relationship with our community. So if things are going on in the community, things are going on in your schools, we can bridge that and we can care for our community holistically together. And so we are so, so grateful for the partnership we have with our Mason City Police Department and our fire department and all of the city resources that they pour in to make sure that this is a safe place for all of our students and staff. So without further ado, Chief Wells, thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Appreciate you and the school district hosting this event tonight and just allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Levi Wells. I'm the Chief of Police with the City of Mason Police Department. This has kind of come full circle for me because I hate to say my age here, but in 1997, I graduated from Mason High School. So I am a Comet. I bleed, I guess, green and white is so I'm very proud to come back and serve this community. It's changed a lot in the last 27 years. When I was in high school, I felt like people that were my age were extremely old, and now I'm that age, and I feel extremely young, I guess. So thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I love to talk about our campus safety initiative because it is completely different than the typical school resource model that you see across the country. We are a very important part of security within the schools, but we are not just security. We are not just school resource officers sitting in a school with a cruiser outside, protecting the students. We are mentoring students. We are engaging in students. We have 10 officers in our campus safety, sworn police officers in our campus safety division, and 4 civilians. So almost every school district from the time they're in kindergarten up through high school, there is a campus safety officer that's in there engaging the students, trying to build a relationship with them. So not only do they feel comfortable talking to us, the see something, say something model starts even with us being in all the schools, giving them the opportunity to feel comfortable talking with the officers. So I really love to highlight that it's not just a typical school resource officer. We go above and beyond that, and very proud of that role. I did have the opportunity before I became chief to serve as one of the campus safety officers in Mason High School. It was unfortunately during COVID, so there was not a lot of contact with the students. It was more of that security feature, and to be quite frank with you, it was one of the best 4 months that I've served as a police officer because this may come as a surprise, but sometimes when we show up on scenes or we stop people, they're not real happy to see us as police officers. But in the high school, the students, even though they're high school seniors and, I have teenagers and they don't really want to talk to adults and all that, they really enjoyed that interaction. I really enjoyed people waving and saying hi and saying, hey, thank you for being here. We don't always get that, so that model is great. In the high school, like I said, it was during COVID, so it was a rough time, but it was one of the better 4 months to be able to engage and mentor kids and kind of give back to the community and be able to relate to them because I was in the same, like I said, not this high school, but the same high school as they were, so I could relate to them. So to kind of close before we move gears here, on behalf of City Mason, thank you for attending this event. The Campus Safety Initiative is a proven tool to enhance our community safety, and I'm confident the City of Mason and the Mason schools, with our partnership, will continue to strive for the excellence and safety in students. With that said, I'd like to introduce Officer Andrew Simmons of the Mason Police Department. He is also a member of our campus safety unit. He's been with us in the campus safety division for a year and a half, 2 years now. Time flies. He's been here 2 years, worked with us approximately 3 years, so almost his entire time he's been in the campus safety, and he does an excellent job. So with that, I'll turn it over to Officer Simmons. Thank you.
I got this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief Wells. Also, thank you, Mason City Schools again. As stated, I'm Officer Andrew Simmons. I'm with our Campus Safety Division. And tonight we'll talk about many safety topics, but we're gonna dive into online safety. And why do we dive onto online safety versus all the other safety topics? And that's because online safety is so important because our personal information is housed digitally to include our financial, our medical, our educational, and that is so important that we maintain the integrity of that information. So we're going to talk over the next slides on online safety, so thank you for joining us as we go through this. If we keep ourselves a hard target, I'm going to use the word hard target, making myself an extremely difficult to become victimized, I'm going to prevent hacking, I'm going to prevent potential for scams, and I'm going to prevent all that just malicious activity that someone out there may be trying to do against myself. What we're going to talk about tonight is how do we actually connect to the internet, and how do we put up those safeguards in our connectivity. Our security in the privacy settings of our accounts, all right? We're going to talk about social media that is so prevalent in our society today, and so we're going to talk about the do's and the don'ts that we want to maintain reference social media. We're going to talk about, should we meet someone online and then we go to meet them in person, what kind of practices do we want to put in place in that first meeting in person to keep us safe as well? To begin with our actual connectivity to the internet, we're going to talk about Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. All right, Wi-Fi, the biggest thing we want to practice is we're only connecting to those secure Wi-Fi networks. We really want to be cautious about connecting to those unsecure Wi-Fi networks that we typically find at the park, the airport, the malls, or any kind of open-air venue. We really want to be cautious about connecting to those unsecure networks because that leaves our device open to discovery on that network. We want to use, if we can, a VPN, a virtual private network. There's many that are available out there. That is a very helpful tool to keep your connectivity safe when we access these websites. Bluetooth, what we really want to impress is let's not keep our Bluetooth enabled at all times, okay? Because our device is always going to be searching for devices to connect with and pair with, all right? So let's only keep our Bluetooth enabled when we're using it with our known devices and the ones that we paired with. Otherwise, let's move to turn that off so they're not just searching for other devices. That's going to maintain our internet connectivity. Talking about profile security, some of these things are pretty common, and I think a lot of us can agree, reference passwords, that we want to maintain strong passwords. We want to avoid using names in our passwords. Most platforms today, most websites require lengthy passwords that have an alphanumeric requirement. You can't just use alpha characters. You have to have a numeric or a special character involved in your password. All right, we want to also avoid using the same password across multiple websites. All right, there may be ease in that to remember our password across all these different websites, but that also opens up, should that password become compromised, now someone has access to all these other platforms because we use the same one. Likewise, I know it's difficult to maintain this ever-growing list of passwords, but we want to be very careful against keeping that list in maybe like a notepad form to where somebody, should they discover it, now they have a whole slew of passwords for all of your other accounts. Now, I'm going to touch on two-step verification, or what you can also say multi-factor authentication, and a lot of those apps keep a password manager that could assist us with maintaining all of our different passwords, but also keeping security of that information in itself. But two-step verification, it is very common that it could be a biometric requirement, maybe a face or a thumbprint or a fingerprint. It could be a code that is sent to you, that is sent to your cell phone that you have to input to then give you access to the website. But ensuring you have those multi-layer authentications can really strengthen our account settings. Just as we want to prevent the use of unsecure Wi-Fi, we really want to be cautious about connecting in the public sector, connecting to our websites and connecting to our devices. All right, when we end our session with whatever it is, maybe we're accessing our bank accounts, or maybe we're accessing our medical records or MyChart. When we're done with that, we want to log out. Okay, we do not want to stay logged into that website and simply close the browser, because that can still keep our session open, which then keeps our information still accessible. We want to log out as soon as we're done with that session. All right, and only visit websites that begin with the HTTPS. All right, if the URL does not begin with the HTTPS, we are not accessing a genuine internet website. we could get ourselves into what's known as the dark web, all right, and some very questionable and malicious content there. So only access the websites which begin with that URL. Our digital correspondence and our downloading behaviors can also be a very big risk factor for us, so we want to be mindful of this. We're receiving emails on a minute-by-minute basis, some of us by a second basis. We're inundated with them every single day. So we want to be very selective of what emails do we open and what attachments do we open. If you do not know the sender, and you do not recognize where it's coming from, do not open that email, and I ask you, do not open any attachments that's inside that email. All right, that's commonly known as phishing, okay? So be mindful of that. If we don't recognize the sender, disregard it, do not open, and do not go any further. Likewise, let's not download any materials or software unless we know what it is, what its purpose is, and what the program is. All right? Malware is any software that, if downloaded, is designed to have malicious intent with your electronic device. All right? So be very mindful of downloading programs or softwares to our computer as well. We have many scams that we're experiencing as a society, and we have it come to us at the police department. All right? This is a time where I'll mention that we also give a period of instruction specifically focused on online scams. We give it to the public, all right? But today I'm going to focus on just one specific that is very prominent reference our use online. You may have an issue or a pop-up come up that says you have some sort of issue with a program and you need to contact help desk at this number. And then they're going to ask for an IP address. Do not give out our IP address to our devices, okay? That is effectively giving that individual complete control over our device, okay? So if we're asked for that, in most cases, that's not genuine. Let's refrain from giving our IP address. These individuals who attempt these online scams apply pressure, and they're very good at applying that pressure, okay? But we need not to panic, okay? We do not panic and do not buy into their demands. They're going to apply that pressure again and play into your fears that should you not do this, you're going to be out this sum of money, or your device is going to be disabled or what have you. But do not give in to those demands. Hang up, call the police department, and you can also contact your bank, okay? And you're going to find that there's no financial loss in most cases, that those are threats that they're trying to bait you into providing personal information, financial information that they can then experience some financial loss. Gift cards. This is a very common indicator. This is our biggest red flag as scams. Should you ever be asked to pay for some service via gift card, that is an immediate red flag to stop, hang up the phone, and call us. Okay? There is no genuine service or no genuine business that is ever going to take compensation via gift cards. Okay, so that is the biggest red flag that we can impress upon you, that if you are instructed to go to some department store and purchase gift cards of any nature, stop and please call us. We're going to now talk about social media. It's prevalent for all of us, of all ages, of all backgrounds. Okay, so we need to be safe in our activities on social media across all platforms. The biggest advice that we can give you is maintain your privacy in who can access and view your accounts, all right? Let's only give access to viewership to those that we actually know. We know them intimately, they're actually real friends of us, and they're on our friends list. Let's not make that viewership open to everybody. A lot of these apps are going to default to giving your location out. I would suggest that we turn off location sharing, okay? Because that's going to maintain our safety. All right, we don't need to give a location out that's going to serve two things. That's going to say, hey, I'm either not at my home or I'm out in somewhere where I don't know and I'm not familiar with the area. Okay, so there's two ends of that string. Could say they're not home. We could attempt something at their house, or there's an individual in that area that we're at that we're not very familiar with, and they can try attempt harm on us in that area. So turn off your location sharing, and I would refrain from checking into any locations. I quite frankly have a viewpoint, those who need to know where I am and what I'm doing, they already know, because those are the ones that are closest to me. Otherwise, I don't believe they need that information. Like I said with other websites, let's not stay logged into that account at all times. Once we're done using that social media platform, let's go ahead and log out, okay? It's just best to end that session and close it out. Sharing our personal information is a subject that we cannot impress enough. As stated, that we don't want everybody to view our accounts, but we don't want to give all that information out there so they can view it. And the biggest ones we don't want to give is our date of birth, our phone number, our address, or any financial information. We do not want to give that information out. Nobody needs to know that outside of our intimate circle and our family. We're going to talk about photos that we post and how we must use caution with that. Once we hit something, once we hit send, once we post something, it is there. It's there for infinite in the cyberspace. All right, so be careful about what we post and what we share. And then it also extends to be careful about who we associate or tag with those posts, those images, and be mindful of how will it affect them. Not only how will it affect you and what information you're giving out, but be mindful of those around you and who you're tagging, because we want to be mindful of their safety as well. Just simple images can give out a lot of information about us. It can give out your location, your work, your school. If I'm posting an image in my uniform, it can give out where do I work? What city do I work at? All right, it can give out the location of where my work is. It can give out an idea of what my schedule is. Do I work the daytime? Do I work the nighttime? All of this information can be gleaned from some of our photos. So be very careful about our photos that we share. Just like we get emails all the time, we're also receiving friend requests almost on a daily basis. Be mindful of those friend requests that we accept. All right? If I receive a friend request, I'm going to investigate and do my due diligence and see, who are you? Do we have any friends in common? Who are those friends that we have in common? Who are they to me? How do I know you, and why are you sending me a friend request? I'm going to go through all of those things before I hit that accept button. Because it's an unfortunate reality that many fake profiles are being created, are being generated, and are bots, as we like to say, that are not genuine people. They pull a photo somewhere, they reach out to you in an attempt to get your attention, and that's where their malicious activity starts. We just talked about images. Sensitive images is really the biggest threat to us. Sending sensitive images of ourselves is dangerous, and we highly discourage it. All right, we're going to continue that thought of sensitive images and how much danger can be there, but because, again, of those fake profiles, because they have malicious intent that we'll get into in just a few slides. Before that, though, we're going to talk about marketplace and, again, meeting someone online and then in person. I use marketplace. I sell items. There's no problem in that. But we want to still be safe in that activity too. Okay? If I post an item for sale and you respond to me that you're interested in purchasing that item, again, I'm going to do my research on who are you. Okay? Many of these marketplace platforms, they have reviews that you can submit. We interacted, we exchanged some good. I review you as a seller, you review me as a buyer, or whatever the case is. I'm going to look at that stuff and say, what's your history here? I see all these people who say you're a poor seller, then I probably don't want to move forward in this negotiation. All right, so I'm going to do my research on you before I move further in our talks. And throughout our negotiation, I still want to be very protective of the information that I give you. All right? There's no reason that I need to give you financial information because you're going to purchase an item from me. There's no reason that I need to divulge some of that information to you. All right? So be mindful throughout your negotiations of what information you share for them. Now, there's some easy things that we can really put in place when we meet those individuals now in person. We want to meet in a public place, a densely populated place, daytime. Let's bring a friend. At minimum, let's let somebody else know what we're doing and where we're going. okay? But bringing a friend is always the biggest recommendation we can have. You just have that safety net that's there with you should this person that you previously do not know at all, now you're encountering them in real life. Be careful with some comments such as, can I try it on first? Can I test drive it first if it were a car or something? All right, we've experienced a lot of our theft comes from an individual seemingly making that innocent request, and then they obtain the item, they obtain the vehicle or what have you, and then they flee with it, okay? And that's where the theft occurs. So be very mindful of requests like that when we're meeting it online. And this is another opportunity for me to say, at any time, you can use the Mason Police Department as an exchange or safe interaction area, okay? We always offer that. You can come to the Mason Police Department to make your transaction, whatever purpose it is, in front where there's video surveillance, and we're right there immediately available to assist you, okay? So remember that we're always there for you. One thing you can do to be proactive is just search yourself online. If I type my name in, whether it be on a social media platform, Google, or any other website, what results will I get? What does the internet have on me? Okay, doing that, you can learn what's already out there. You could potentially go to that website and maybe opt out of some of that information sharing. Okay, so those are simple things that we can do to really find out what's already out there about me and how can I either pull it back and get it off of there or protect myself. So don't forget about just searching yourself online. We had just talked about sensitive images. We're going to now transition to talk about an event that we have seen on a rising frequency that we call sextortion. We're going to play a short video here that explains sextortion. But before we play, I will say the content of this video is heavy. This is a very serious matter. All right, this is not a matter that we take lightly. So be mindful of your own sensitivities, be mindful of your emotional well-being, and protect yourself as we move forward and watch this video.
Hi, Zach. Here's another video from my special guy. I can't believe we haven't talked all day. I wish you went to my school or a little closer so we could finally meet.
Hey, kiddo. Dinner in an hour. Don't spend too long on the phone.
Okay, I know you've been waiting for this for a while, so I wanted to give you something special. Is this okay?
Who are you? Why are you doing this?
Okay, we're going to discuss sextortion. What is it? What are some of the tactics that are used? What are the trends that we're seeing as a police department? We're going to talk about what kind of conversations can we have in the response to this. And then we're going to identify some safety tips, some organizations, and resources. This is also a moment that I'll say that this is a separate presentation that we provide to the public, which can be found at published in Centerpoint and as well as Mason Community Center. Both this and the online safety are presentations that we give. So, sextortion. It's a online exploitation, a crime that targets children, but it's also experienced by all populations. All right? It targets children, but it's experienced by everyone. It's the coercion of blackmail to acquire sexually explicit content and the purpose to engage in sex or acquire money. So there's two motivations we're going to talk about: sexually and financial motivation. All right, and then what are the trends regarding both of those? We'll talk first about the sexual motivation. Our common victims are females in those teenage years. All right, a sensitive image is sent to somebody. That offender will then request additional images, more content. Give me more, or I will release these images to your friends, to your family, and to the public. If you do not keep sending me more images that are oftentimes getting more severe in their content. The financial motivation is actually seen more in males, still of the same age group, those teenage years, but the sensitive content is given, and then the offender starts to request money. You must pay me this amount or some large sum, or else I will release these images, I will release this content to your friends, family, and the public. All right, so that is the two common trends that we see, the sexual and the financial motivation. All right, just as we mentioned earlier about all these fake accounts, it's the same here. These offenders will use hacked accounts or steal an image from a person known to you or maybe an acquaintance of you to give you that sense of slight comfort. So their interaction begins there. And then once the content is shared, they're going to then make their threats to release the images. There's threats of violence. There's threats of harm, time pressure. That is really the main tactic of theirs. Just as we saw in the other online scams, these people all just pressure, pressure, pressure. And they're going to be very increasing in their pressure to play on your fears. There's rapid victimization. This typically occurs on our social media apps. All right, that's why it's so important, some of the safeguards that we just talked about on our social media platforms, that we practice those. It's oftentimes that regardless of your compliance, whether it's more explicit material or it's money that you do give to that offender, they're going to follow through with their threats. They're going to still release those images. All right? So just understand that these are the trends of how they're accomplishing this. Offenders will demand large sums of money. Payments can be, as we mentioned before, gift cards. That's another big red flag there, or other online services. And unfortunately, this is resulting in increased rates of teen suicide. Why are our youth so vulnerable? Well, social media is so prevalent in our society today that they're experiencing it all the same. That turns to trends of less supervision, seeking acceptance, posting risky content. They're seeking likes, they're seeking followers, they're seeking reactions. And so they're being more comfortable posting this ever-increasing risky content, explicit content, so that's feeding their vulnerability. They're susceptible to manipulation, all right? That emotional well-being maybe isn't there or isn't as strong as it could be in later adulthood, so that they're susceptible to manipulation through that. They may have past victimization as well. That greatly affects the occurrence of further. And with the societal trends, that tendency to overshare information and images on those social media platforms greatly affects this as well. Well, what conversations can we have with our youth? As a parent or as a friend, what conversations can we start to have to really curve this trend and make our youth those hard targets, as I mentioned earlier. Preparation and the communication we have is vital. We have to keep those lines of communication open. Have you heard about sextortion? All right, have those questions. Do you know anyone who might need help? What would you do if someone pressured you? All right, and impress, and we can't impress this enough, no mistake is too big to ask for help. You can always ask for help, all right? We, as a police department, are always saying, you can always ask us for help, but we can do that at home as well, okay? We're all in this together. It's unfortunate that 1 in 3 victims never tell due to embarrassment or shame. All right, it's a tough subject for them, but we need to try to open up and say, no mistake is too big. We need to talk about this. Let your child know that they can talk to you. Control the emotions in response, okay? Active listening. Active listening is vital here, okay? If they're choosing to open up to you, we have to be calm and listen to their words and listen to their experiences. Consider our tone and language in our response. Answer their questions, okay? Be honest with your answers, all right? And please, let's not do the discount of just ignore it, it'll go away, or you need to delete it. This is prominent enough and this is dangerous enough that we need to dive further in this and look at this, what's going on. We want to stop responding immediately, all right? They're going to continue to make their threats. As you saw in the video, he continues to make his threats. But we want to stop responding. And just as I said, let's not discount and say delete it. We actually don't want to delete it, okay? We ask that you do not delete it. Tell a trusted adult. Come see us so we can start a report and an investigation. All right? We're going to now identify our websites and resources. But with that, we can practice our response, we can be responsible, and once again, there's no mistake too big, okay? Here's some of our resources that can assist us should we experience sextortion. All right, at the bottom is the non-emergency business line for Warren County Communications. Okay, obviously in any emergency, you can always contact 911 as well. Thank you for joining me tonight as we talked about online safety. Myself and other officers will be out in the commons area to speak further or answer any questions you may have.
Hey, I just want to thank our Mason Police Department once again. So please thank them again for their information and their partnership. We really appreciate them. As we get ready for our next session of the evening in our safety conversation with some of our administrators and partners from around the city, I just want to share just a couple thoughts. One, just how grateful I am to be in a district that is proactively talking about safety and to have community members that are engaged in this, whether you're here in person or many of you online checking this out. So we are just so grateful that you are a part of this conversation. And the other piece I would like to just thank our Board of Education for investing in the partnerships that we have with our mental health and the proactive moves that we have, but also with our campus safety approach. You heard our police officers talk about that approach and how important that is to us as a city and to our school district. And then finally, as a parent, and you're going to hear some other parents here on the panel talking. You heard the police officer Simmons talk specifically about keeping the conversation open. It is our job as parents, as family members, as community members to lean in and keep that conversation open with our kids, to make sure that's open and honest and transparent. And that's our way of loving them. And if you ever need help with that or support with that, we have great people here. We have administrators that are here tonight that are happy to partner with you or to at least connect you to the right resources. So please see us as a resource, whether it's here in school or the safety in your community and your home. We would love to be a partner with you. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy Carson and our wonderful panel this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cooper, and thank all of you for taking time out of your evening to come and to really invest. It's one of the things that we're really special as a community, that we come together to do hard things, but the thing is about doing that together. I think we've learned some really important information tonight from our City of Mason partners, and that partnership with our city, we're going to talk about that as a school district, kind of what that means for us. There are other really important partnerships we have as well, and some of our principals that are here on the panel are going to lean into some of that, because we spend so much time in our district thinking about how we prevent the worst from happening. And so we want to talk about that, and then know that we also think through what those scenarios would be if the worst happens. And so we don't pretend to have all the answers. We do a lot of work and listening and iterating and working with families and working with community, because this is all of us together that keeps our kids safe. So with that, I'm going to just start with our Mason Early Childhood Center principal, Melissa Bly. She's a Comet mom herself, and works with our really youngest Comet kids, those kiddos who are 3 through 7 years old who go to MECC. When we think about your school, Melissa, how do you create a safe and supportive environment where young students feel connected to a loving adult? And how does that contribute to overall school safety when we're talking about our little ones?
Yes, so at MECC, we start off every day with a morning meeting that happens between our students and our teachers. And it's right there in that morning meeting that we're working on building community and building a feeling of trust between that teacher and those children. So we talk a lot about trusted adults. We want that every child to have a trusted adult. And we know that that's going to start right there on the carpet at that morning meeting with the teacher that's present. So from there, we continue to talk about trusted adults being all of the adults at MECC. Sometimes we wear the same t-shirt just so that all of our kids can see we are all trusted adults. We're all here to help you and to help you be successful and safe. So that language is used frequently throughout the day, throughout the year. And then we start to build in conversations that are kid-friendly. And we talk about things like strangers. Strangers are people that we don't know. Most strangers are, helpful, but we do know that there are dangerous strangers. And so when a dangerous stranger might be present, these are some things that we would do. And then again, referring back to that trusted adult and how that trusted adult is going to help you get the things that you need and keep you safe.
And so really learning those lessons of listening to my teacher and knowing that I have someone and school is connected, even when we're leaning into things that are hard. Your goal always, I think I was in a lesson one time that was saying where I'm prepared, not scared. Could you just talk about that? How are you talking about hard things like, you don't say active assailant with our youngest kids, but how are we teaching them to not be scared, but to be prepared?
Right. So we practice everything that they would practice at the upper grades, but in a smaller way. So we try to use kid-friendly language, and the Be Prepared, Not Scared is actually a title of one of our read-alouds that we read to our students. And so we make sure that we are just talking to kids in the language that makes sense to them to help build that trust. So through those read-alouds, through those conversations, we say, if this were to happen, what would you do? And again, going back to that trusted adult, the routines and procedures that we've taught that are very kid-friendly, and making sure that kids feel safe within them are really our strategies for that. I also have to say, Officer Brian Lehman is in our building full-time. He has connections with the students. He is part of that procedure where we make sure that read aloud gets into every classroom. He reads that to our children. He and I just did a video on door safety, and just helping the kids to know what it means to just take care of our space and take care of MECC. So he's been a great community partner with us at MEC, and we're super grateful for trusted adults that are our staff and also part of our community.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bly. I know as we move up in Mason, we head over to Mason Elementary, and Rob Polka is the principal of that wonderful school. He's sitting in the middle on our panel and is also a parent in our district, and has a heart for our kids. And Mason Elementary's mission of kindness starts with me. We know, what are some of the moves that Mason Elementary School has made to ensure that students in grades 3 through 4 feel a sense of belonging? And how does that help prevent behavioral or mental health concerns before they escalate?
Yeah, so the first thing we get to build upon a really strong foundation that comes to us from MEC. We also start our day with a morning meeting, and that morning meeting is usually our students and teacher at the carpet. They're connecting, they're building relationships, learning to pronounce each other's names correctly is one of the first things that we do, and that just shows respect and care for others. So morning meeting is really, really important to us in terms of building connection and community. Every other week, every 2 weeks, we have what we call a RISE lesson, and that takes place during morning meeting, and that's a universal experience that takes place in all of our classrooms that really fuses our E plus R equals O culture, our beliefs, behaviors, our values, also with our portrait of a comet skills, empathy, sense of belonging, students really knowing themselves, and it's really strengths-based. So every student is unique and has a ton of value, and helping students to recognize their value and also to embrace the things that make them wonderful. We certainly work on growing and stretching our kids, but really that's where it starts, is morning meeting. And with our RISE lessons, we do a really great job at the classroom level of building community. We have student-led announcements, and each day our students will record a video with me. And in that announcement series, we always tell our kids at the end, we love you. We try to reinforce that we love our kids. Every adult in the building is someone who they can go to in a time of need, trusted adults. We have a wonderful campus safety officer, Scott Burdick, who helps keep us safe, but he is a positive mentor. He's got great rapport with our kids. So we really start in the classroom level, but we try to radiate that in everything that we do.
I definitely know we feel that. I also know there are times where, just as families, you start to think through, I think my child is struggling. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they're connecting with friends, or all of a sudden we're starting to have some big explosive kind of behavior issues at home. What do I do then? Where should I be going? Who should I be talking to?
Yeah, so we would ask that you reach out to our team, and we have a lot of Friday communication. We always want to stay in touch, and we might even over communicate. But every Friday message we have that goes to our families, we've got a link to reach out to our member of our counseling and prevention and wellness design team. So we've got school counselors, grade level counselors do a great job of teaching lessons to students, supporting students and classroom teachers. We also have tier 2 and tier 3 counselors that might be a bit more specialized, provide further supports in smaller group settings or even one-on-one settings, and they help us get students and families connected to additional supports. For example, we've got children's hospital therapists who meet with kids on a regular basis. So simply reaching out to a principal or to a member of our counseling and prevention and wellness design team is a great way to get that started. We're here to support our kids. Certainly, there's transitions and there is development and growth, and it's not always linear. Sometimes it can be a bit bumpy, and just know that we're here to support you and your learners every step of the way.
Thank you, Mr. Polka. I think what you said was really important, and it builds. We have so many wonderful resources, and that's another terrific partnership that you just mentioned with Children's Hospital. Just to have police officers in our schools at every single building, to have therapy dogs in our schools in every single building, and to have children's therapists who during the school day can meet with children in every single one of our schools. We are really fortunate to have those kinds of resources. Mr. Messer, you've been another longtime Mason administrator, have served as a teacher, a parapro, and also a longtime principal in our district. You have Comet grads as well. What are some things when you think about watching our kids today? We were listening to some kind of, really scary things that kids are facing through sextortion and social media. But what are some of the things that you wish families knew were the biggest threats to their tweens based on what you see at Mason Intermediate?
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. In grades 5 and 6, I think social media starts to come into their life and play a big role in what they do. And it's tough because if they're not on social media, they feel like they're isolated or they're not part of this friend group or that friend group. And so it's going to take all of us. And parents, one thing I'd want to say is you're not alone. You know, we are here to help support you. We're here to help support your kids. We have people in place that can offer you advice. And when you think of, it's going to take all of us to really work through this, the schools, the parents, the community, to really work through and kind of figure out how do we really navigate social media so a fifth and sixth grader can critically think about what they're seeing, what they're reading, what they're viewing, and really feel like, hey, I can make it through this. And so that social media piece and phones, I know phones are always a big debate at our level, and I have a lot of parents call me saying, "Eric, I don't have a phone. Is that okay?" My answer is always yes. Um, but it's that question of, when is this phone appropriate? When is social media appropriate? And my answer is always me. You know your kids. We can offer you advice and support, but really, we have so many people in place that can help you as parents, but also help the kids. Like Rob and Melissa said, we kind of build off of what they do and we take it to the next level. And then the middle school does the same, we'll do the same thing. But that social media piece at our level really starts to come in and really makes them think about what they're doing and what it does. And it's also tough on parents because it's taking away from sometimes family time. I have 3 kids who went through the system. I've dealt with it too, but it's really taking a look at how do we make sure kids are safe? Because I'm sure the police officers have talked about there's a lot of people online who have ill intentions and they're predators. And how do we keep kids safe from that? And how do we let them use that in appropriate ways so that way they're safe here at school and at home?
One of the other common things we have, and you mentioned it, we have these universal learning experiences where we go into our portrait skills, and you said communication and critical thinking. And when I think about launch at MECC and rise at ME and lift at your level, then it goes into crew at the middle school and then connect time at the high school. But Eric, MI, that does seem the time where you're leaning into what does it mean to be a digital citizen. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what a lift lesson and how the teachers are really helping to lead some of that conversation?
Yeah, we have a lift lesson just about every morning, and it's discussing all the things that our kids are dealing with. And sometimes we leave days open because things change. And we want to be able to have conversations with kids about what they're dealing with right now, not what they dealt with 2 years ago, because it changes. And so we really want to listen to our kids, and we really we meet with as a team and discuss what are issues that we're dealing with right now that our kids need help with. What are things that we can discuss and have those conversations? So a lift lesson could be just talking about, hey, what does it mean to be a good citizen? What does it mean to be a critical thinker? What does it mean to your self-identity? What's it mean to be you? And so those are all topics we talk about and really discuss. How do we make sure that we're keeping our kids safe, and how do we make sure that they understand truly what does it mean to be a Comet? What does it mean to be a Mason Comet? And then they leave my school and go to middle school. I want them to be prepared for the next step. And so really our lift lessons are a big piece of it. And like Melissa said too, we're also lucky to have Officer Tebow, the campus safety team, in our building for 2 reasons. One, he teaches our DARE lessons, which is really discussing making good life choices. And he also is in our building with our kids on a daily basis. And if you know Officer Tebow, he's not afraid to talk to you. And he will talk to all the kids and loves talking to the kids. And it brings that sense of just home, and they feel safe because he's there and they know him well. So we have a great team with our counselors who really work hard, and our team works hard with our lift lessons with our kids on a daily basis. And we do drills to make sure they're also ready and prepared.
Thank you so much. Next, at the middle school level, we have Matt Shermer, a wonderful assistant principal, part of that team. I know safety is always on the mind of Mr. Reuter, the principal of that building, and you're kind of a right-hand man and really thinking through a lot of the safety levels. We know middle school can be tough. It can be tough as a parent. A lot of us can think about it and go, it wasn't my favorite time of life. And so it's heightened emotional and social challenges. Knowing all of that, how do you address both the prevention of harm to self? Suicidal ideation is something that we really think a lot about and worry about. And managing also just the complex dynamics of what school safety looks like for 7th and 8th graders?
Sure. Thanks, Tracy. I think when we look at middle school and that transition and trying to find our way between MI and the high school, it is that tumultuous time for a young adult, getting responsibility but not having full responsibility, and really trying to find that balance. What we did is through our leadership team and through working with the district, we moved to neighborhoods this year. And it is a teaming model that we really pushed hard for, because we know that isolation can happen real quick at that middle school level. When you've got 1,600 plus students sitting in a building and you've got all different schedules, you may not have lunch with a friend, you may not see anybody you know in the first week of school. And that's a reality that we wanted to make sure that we addressed and worked through. And our neighborhoods divided our building into 15 teams, which gave 4 common teachers a set of common students. Very similar to the models that, obviously that are coming up to us, but also allowed still for some freedom to go out and have some electives and some of that time away, so it also bridged that gap to the high school. And what we have found already is that structure and putting that structure in place has really worked to help us, one, build strong relationships with our students. Being able for our staff not only to have that same common set of students, but also to be able to sit down in the morning once a week with time to talk about those students. Hey, who's doing well? Who do we need to work with? Who needs some focus? Hey, did you hear this is going on with Tony? Yeah, let's work with him, make sure we keep an eye on him. Those kind of conversations happen so naturally within our staff that it's been beautiful, because it also bleeds right into the other structures that we also put in place, very much so mirroring again what we see coming to us. We've tiered out our counselors, so we have the ability to, really look at the needs of our students and be able to assign them proper supports, whether it's small group, even up to school-based therapy as we continue to work with Children's Hospital, and really working with all those resources to, one, prevent it so that we know ahead of time, because I think that's the biggest challenge, is really how do we get in front of it. We do a great job on the backside too, but really getting in front of those kind of concerns and making sure that, when it's a bump in the road, it's just that bump in the road, and we provide those skill sets on how to move forward. We do a lot of programming as well. I know there's a lot of similarities between us and the high school. We've got Signs of Suicide that's coming up at the end of this month. That's another great program that really allows our students to have that voice, and also to be able to look out for a friend. Additionally, we work very hard in crew to make sure that our crew lessons, just as seen again with our other buildings preceding us, is a time for us to make that connection, but also to have a voice and to be able to have a space that's safe, that they can communicate concerns for themselves or others.
I'm so glad you brought up Signs of Suicide training. Parents also have an opportunity to take QPR training. We put that on as a district every once in a while. I highly encourage it. I think not just families, all of us know it's not just students at risk of suicide, and so when we know those signs, we can all go and prevent. One thing I wonder about a little bit when I think about middle school is that it's the time that all of a sudden, I'm still listening to my parents, and those lessons come back and play a big role, but I'm also really starting to get connected based on a peer group. And in Mason, we've really start at middle school level investing in kind of opportunities outside of school. It's your time that you can now get connected through sports, through clubs, through activities. If a student is just starting to they're struggling to figure out how are they finding their people, who should they reach out to? Is it Lori? Can you just talk to at student activities? It's Lori.
So if we look at Ms. Pieper is one of our directors of our programming. We have so many clubs. Actually, I got volunteered by a group of young ladies that came to me asking about starting a cooking club, and now I am moderating a cooking club after school. That's to start here soon. So that has been, one of as being new to Mason, I have really, truly, I am a firm believer of it, that it involves student is a successful student. And I think what we do as a district to provide those opportunities, especially starting in the middle school, where if you have an interest, one, there's going to be something that's going to fit that. If not, we have a great team to set up, support, finance, make sure that group can happen if we can find the right support to make it happen. And 9 times out of 10 we do. So when we look at, I think every single one of our team's emails has a link to our clubs and groups activities. That's something we press and push for. I've got 2 students right now that are reporting back to me on Wednesday that have to have a club that they're going to join in the spring. So, that's definitely one thing about finding that sense of belonging that we really, really do work towards.
Thank you so much. And that is a terrific segue to introduce you to Mason High School's new Associate Principal of Student Life, Brandon Rompies, who's also a dad in our district and also has had for many years now a really pivotal role in school safety, has actually probably helped train in Alice. Many of the people on this panel, including and many of our new staff, all get trained from Mr. Rompies every year about Alice, which is our kind of district's approach to active assailant training. But really, in high school, students take on more responsibility for their own safety and well-being. How do you engage students in being proactive about both their mental health and school safety, and what role do they play in supporting each other?
Yes, thank you, Tracy. It is very important that our high school students feel empowered to let us know if they have concern about a peer. We encourage at the high school our students see something, say something, and you hear that a lot in our conversation with our students. We need them to be able to connect the dots if someone's struggling, and whether it's on social media, whether it's in a class, whether it's in the hallways, we have a culture, and it's established at the younger buildings, of caring for one another, looking out for one another, and telling an adult. Whether it's reaching out to a guidance counselor, Officer Schaefer and Officer Roten with Mason Police, who are very active in our building, the administrative team, Mr. Brown, the principal. We want to be accessible so kids can tell us as adults and our teachers. We also have set up avenues for students to share their concerns with our Safe School tip line, which is a wonderful resource for our building and for our kids. The way this works, if a student or a parent or community member, and this is where it's a community effort to use, if we have concerns, if we see something online at night, if there's a message that's floating around on the social media, there's an avenue with the Safe School tip line. And when those tips are posted, they go directly to high school administration as well as central office administration. And from there, we're looking at the tips. Dr. Cooper is heavily involved, Mr. Todd Petrie, Mr. TJ Glassmeyer, wellness coordinator, the high school team, and we're working through and looking at what can we do to support the student or the situation, working with our collaboration with Mason Police if that's needed. But really, the Safe School tip line is a great avenue to empower our students. And lastly, we know sometimes as high school students, it can be challenging to come to an adult. Our Hope Squad is really pivotal in providing that peer-to-peer support. If you haven't had a chance, Hope Squad members of high school and middle school are out there, I encourage you just to have a conversation with those kids. They're really just great to talk to. But our Hope Squad is that extra layer of support for us where they will, they're in classes with their peers and they get just a little bit more sometimes. So they'll let administration or counselors know, or the Hope Squad advisors, and they also use a Safe School tip line. So the Hope Squad has been very, very pivotal for us for that extra layer of students empowering each other to let us know if they have concerns.
We are so fortunate to have our Hope Squads. They really are not supposed to be the therapists. They're not the counselors, but they are doing what is needed. Is they're connecting the dots. And every time you see places where things have gone wrong and things have gone badly, often in the aftermath of that, there were dots to connect. And what is really exciting in thinking about this is that there are a lot of dots we are connecting. Can you peel back the layers, Brandon, for just, I'll play out a scenario. I'm, it's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm a high school junior. I'm feeling a little bit sick to my stomach before I go to sleep. And I'm like, I saw this post from a friend that said, I've had enough. I want to end it all. I don't know what to do. They put it on the tip line, and that as a specific, they've got a kid's name with it. It hits the tip line. What happens next?
Yeah, and that's happened a lot, unfortunately. But I'm happy the tip line's there because I can tell you, and every adult that's worked on the tip line at the high school central office, the tip line has saved high school students' lives in the 11 years that I've been here. What occurs once that tip is posted, high school administration and central office administration are alerted via email, and then we start triaging even at 11 o'clock at night Dr. Cooper he usually has a late shift on the tip line based upon his work calendar and schedule. But we start communicating and we triage what's the appropriate level of support in that situation. It could be reaching out to Mason Police right away, and the partnership there is strong with the officers being involved, where we say, hey, we got this tip. Can someone go out to the household right now? If it's not maybe to the level of going to the house right now, then we're meeting first thing in the morning. We're calling parents in. We're bringing our mental wellness team in, our guidance counselor, the high school administration, and we're talking and having a conversation. What support can we put in place? What is needed? So the tip line is triaged 7 days a week, close to 24 hours a day. There's monitoring it. We also, the other reality is if there's a concern of school safety, we do get those on the tip line as well, and those are looked at the same way. They're triaged the same way in the sense that we'll bring together a team at night and texting and calling and saying, what do we need to do? Is it Mason Police coming out to the household to assess the situation and relying on them and their expertise? And it could be the next morning. There's school consequences that come along with those decisions of posts on social medias that, impact our culture and make it not safe. There is a process there of consequences that are significant. But then with that, we're also bringing the team together and we're looking at the same team of mental wellness coordinators, high school administration, what supports are needed to help this young person in that moment. So the tip line is really, it's active all the time, and we're constantly monitoring it. And it's our students use it the right way. We have years and years of data to support that. Our students will let us know when they're concerned, and they use it appropriately. And there's been countless times we've been able to help out students who are in need because of it.
It is something we're really proud of. I know when we talk with colleagues across the state, there is a state system as well. Many school districts will have maybe 10 tips a year. We have over 300. And it's really because our students, and it starts with really teaching that see something, say something. It's really become part of our culture. And so many thanks to all of you for leading that charge. We're really thrilled to kind of wrap up our conversation with someone who helps bring it all together, the leader of kind of campus safety for the city of Mason, Lieutenant Steve Temple. We really have such deep gratitude for the men and women, and it's not just police, it's fire, it's there's a lot of folks involved in campus safety. But from your law enforcement perspective, what are the most critical elements of the partnership that you would see between the city and district, and how it has really helped make our schools safer?
Thanks, Tracy. Certainly any relationship is built upon trust. How we build that trust is just over time with communication, collaboration, cooperation. We work closely with staff, students, administration, all the way up to Dr. Cooper to make sure that we can build that culture of safety within the school, and that they can take these lessons that we build upon from Alice lessons at MECC all the way up to Mason High School. Provide students with these skills and tool sets so that they can go out into their communities and be safe. They can utilize these skills every day, or hopefully not every day, but when that opportunity is presented, that they can keep themselves and other members of their family safe.
Can you think of, one or two examples of how you think the partnership has really increased safety to help get help for a particular, you don't have to use an individual's name, but a certain kind of situation of a family or a student, just this partnership of you hearing things, us hearing things. How has that changed now that we have this partnership from maybe what it would have been years ago?
Yeah, it's a very unique situation to have officers in every level of the school. So what that does is that's allowed us to build the relationship with students to trust the police officers that we're going to be there and that we have their best interest, working with their parents and working with their families to help build that culture within the community that, hey, Mason Police is looking out for us, and we can build on that relationship with the students and the staff and the administrators with Mason City Schools that have so many resources to our community to help build that, whether that's through our mentoring. We're very strong into the classrooms with teaching some of these skills, but also outside of the classroom, just in the hallways, speaking with kids and building upon that relationship. And they start trusting our officers, and they can bring things to their attention that maybe if we didn't have that trust or we didn't have an officer in every school, they wouldn't feel comfortable with coming to that officer with other kids that are in need or themselves, or maybe it's a brother or sister, mom and dad. So it really just gives us an opportunity to keep the whole entire community safe. Another thing, we have a student intervention program. So if one of our officers is our road patrol officers has contact with a family or with a student after hours or when school's not in session, we have a program in place to kind of notify the campus safety officers of a potential issue, problem, whether that just be an opportunity for mentoring or whether that could be where a student needs additional resources. I'm really proud of that. And you can see it in the summertime when the kids are out or on the weekends and how they kind of flock to the campus safety officers. And I think that's when you know that you've kind of built that trust.
Well, I know really on behalf of our community, we are really grateful to have, we're in many ways, it doesn't matter the school or the city or the township for that matter. We're also really thrilled with our Deerfield Township partners and even Warren County. There's so many people, Children's Hospital, our therapists, our partners with Mind Peace. It really is a partnership. We really are a community, and we don't have all the answers, but we know that we do it better in community together. And we think that these kinds of conversations of having things that we can pick up the phone and have close contacts, but we also know there are things like the tip line. There are other ways to share information to just help keep our schools safe. Thank you all for sharing your time, and thank you all for being part of this tonight. We're really grateful.